Welcome back to As Promised. Yes, we're getting to the place where we've discovered depression as a response, the habit of depression, how overwhelming it can feel, how daunting it can feel to even embark on the journey to change that. So, I just actually want to take this little moment to say, well done, celebrate yourself for even just listening to this information from which I'm getting from this book. You are going on the journey of evolution, relieving yourself, alleviating yourself of the suffering of depression. Nobody deserves to suffer. Everybody deserves to have the fullness of joy in their life. It is within your faculty to have the fullness of joy in your life. Now, that does not disregard the pendulum. Is that the word? Pendulum, yeah, of balance. We experience things that we perceive as bad, we experience things that we perceive as good. But talking from a personal level, I know that I mostly only really remember the bad things. So I'm actively trying to remember the good things. Now, the thing about this podcast is that I love solution based problems. Like, let's find the solutions rather than just talking about the problems. So let's dive into the last little section of this chapter. And then we're going to go back to look at some of the things that will empower us, encourage us, and remind us that it is within our capacity to not only experience the depression, but be aware of it, observe it, and therefore transmute it, alchemize it into our power. Yeah? This journey is also about creating a fertile ground for us to grow, not just as human beings, which will mean that we better serve ourselves and we serve each other, but also to grow as artists, if you're an artist listening to this. To create a fertile ground is that which allows the seed that is within you to grow big, blossom, and also shed the things that don't serve us. It's a cycle, it's a journey. There is no end. What we have been exploring is the three elements: outside causes, number one; two, the depressed response and the habit of depression, number three. This offers a new approach. They give you the power to reverse the underlying conditions of your depression, the underlying conditions. I think that's amazing because we're not just looking at the tip of the iceberg. We're not just looking at the depression as the actual daunting problem. We're going, let's go underneath it and upheave it and heal it, acknowledge and heal it. The book says, we aren't saying that the cause of depression has been found, because in the end, your depression is entangled with everything else in your life, including everything that is going on in your body. Our body gives us clues to let us know whether we're in discomfort, whether we're in joy, that our body is constantly in dialogue with us, and how it's important for us to listen, or at least acknowledge that we are listening. Because sometimes it can be scary to go, oh, my body is telling me something and I don't actually know what it is. But just the awareness around that not only empowers you, it offers up a new opportunity of you to be in dialogue with your body. As we know, dialogue, discourse is one of the greatest gifts that we have, because talking allows us to come together and explore ideas, expand ideas, thoughts, see things from different points of view. So, just the opportunity of having that type of communication with self offers up a brand new world. It just opens up a whole new world for you to explore your experience on this planet, if that makes sense, which I hope it does. It's also not my desire to undermine the experience of depression and understand how daunting, heavy, and scary that can be. This is just to give us the options in order for us to alleviate that suffering, alleviate that pain. Depression is like a fog that cannot be grabbed in any one place, but fogs can lift. The best news is that the real you isn't depressed and never has been. By setting out on the path to finding the real you, you will accomplish more than healing your depression. You will emerge into the light and see life in a new way. So we're going to duppy our depression. We're going to duppy our depression and put it to sleep. Yes. The book says death exists in the service of life. You may resist the idea, but your cells understand that completely. Genes not only know when it is time for new cells to be born, say when we grow permanent teeth to replace baby teeth or undergo the changes of puberty, but also when it is time for a cell to die, as when we slough off skin cells. Before we dive into the internal landscape of solutions that we can offer ourselves to alleviate the suffering, the familiarity, and habit of the depressed response, let's look at the physical part of exercise, which we know not only makes us feel good, but it also encourages neurogenesis, which is the encouragement of new neural pathways, new neurons. By choosing to exercise every day, you can increase the number of new nerve cells, just as you do when you actively seek to learn new things. Physical exercise, mentally stimulating activities like reading this book, and social connectedness helps us create new nerve cells and will also help us be aware in regards to how our body is responding to the experience of depression. The brain is multidimensional in order to allow any experience to occur. Which experience will dominate is neither automatic nor genetically programmed. There is a balance between desire and restraint, choice and compulsion. Accepting that biology is destiny defeats the whole purpose of being human. We should submit to destiny only as a last desperate choice. But the argument for a domineering lower brain makes submission the first choice. Even though we experience fear and desire every day as natural reactions to the world, we do not have to be ruled by them. The response to stress and instinctual drive was built into us. Freud held that civilization depends on our overriding primitive urges so that higher values can prevail, which sounds true enough. But he believed pessimistically that we pay a high price for it. We repress our lower drives but never extinguish them or make peace with our deeper fears and aggressions. The result is eruptions of mass violence, like the two world wars, when all of that repressed energy takes its toll in horrendous, uncontrollable ways. This is another reason why I want to congratulate and celebrate any of the listeners that are engaging, because we're not repressing, we're not suppressing the feelings that we have. We're trying to explore and challenge and transmute them in order to not create violence in the body, which will ultimately manifest in our reality. We see that around us constantly in this day and age, but going inward, observing self inwardly, acknowledging that we are at discomfort, dis-ease, not feeling fully present in our bodies, and therefore investigating it means that we can change it. Change is slow and gradual. It can't happen. It doesn't happen overnight, but we're working on it. And ultimately, we're being of service to self and to the world by making sure that we are not one of the people just reacting to the external stimuluses or even reacting to the internal stimuluses. The choice is always there. We can be consciously aware of our emotions and choose not to identify with them. The road to brain wellness begins with awareness. It also ends in awareness, and awareness allows every step along the way. In the brain, energy flows where awareness goes. When the energy stops flowing, you become stuck. Stuckness is an illusion, but when it is happening to you, it feels very real. It's tragically ironic that the same brain that can conquer fear should also subject us to fears that haunt us all our lives. We humans, however, suffer terribly in our inner world, and this suffering gets translated into physical problems. The stakes are very high when it comes to letting the brain use you. But if you start to use it instead, the rewards are unlimited. What we should be looking at is habit, behavior, attention, enthusiasm, and focus, all of which are primarily mental. Once you stop paying attention and give up on learning new things, you give yourself no encouragement. You give memory no encouragement. Whatever you pay attention to grows. You have to make more conscious choices than you did in earlier life. Here are some other things that we can do. Be passionate about your life and the experiences you fill it with. Enthusiastically learn new things. Pay attention to the things you will need to remember later. Don't blame or fear occasional lapses. Be wide ranging in your mental activities. What we're basically doing is we're trying to keep up the mind brain connection. And we can do this every day in every moment. Every day counts. Your brain never stops paying attention to what you tell it, and it can respond very quickly. As long as you keep paying attention to your day to day existence, you can retrieve memories quickly and reliably. I'm also talking specifically about the good memories, the memories where your body felt amazing, where you were happy, elated, where you felt joyful, where you overcame a challenge or an obstacle. Those are the kind of memories that you want to be able to retrieve quickly in order to reinforce those feedback loops so that we create those habits when we are challenged by external stimuluses or when we want to react by falling into depression, as opposed to remembering that you have overcome something before. You overcame it before, you can do that again, right? The most familiar things may seem unimportant, but they count. This is why familiarity with suffering only produces more suffering. It only produces more moments of pain, of this is long, or life is long, or I'm not having a good time, because we've become familiar with them. They're in our day to day. We have to learn how to replace them with the moments of joy. Other ways in which we can do that: take care of stress, get enough sleep. I'm saying that loudly because I'm saying it for myself. Be regular in your habits. Don't overtax yourself mentally with multitasking. I do that quite often, so I need to remember that. Regular habits help since the brain operates more easily on repetition. If you live in a scattered and distracted way, the sensory overload to your brain is damaging and unnecessary. Your brain was designed to follow your lead, and the more relaxed you are, the better that will be for your mind brain partnership. The best memory is the one you rely upon with simple confidence. So let's be simply confident on the memories that bring us peace, joy. This isn't me trying to just say we can always live a life of absolute serenity. Like I said, the pendulum. But if we recall the memories where we overcame challenges, those will become our habits. Let's go. Those will become our habits, and then naturally, instinctively, they'll become our responses. All right, let's go. We like learning. The neural network of your brain is the computer of your body, but is also the computer of your life. It absorbs and registers every experience, however tiny, and compares it with past experiences, then stores it away. Your brain stores information by constantly comparing today with yesterday. It constantly connects new information with what you learned in the past. You remodel and refine your neural network on a second by second basis, but so does the world you experience. The largest supercomputer in existence cannot match this feat, which all of us take for granted. The brain isn't daunted by its endless tasks. The more you ask it to do, the more it can do. Your brain is capable of making a quadrillion, 1,000,000,000,000,000 synapses. Amazing. One thing can always be counted on with the human brain: you can't look anywhere without looking everywhere. As a solution based babe, we're now going to look at three things: integration, adaptability, and expanding consciousness, in order to give the brain the opportunity to show us how big and bad it is and alleviate the familiarity of suffering and reinforce the familiarity of what's the opposite to suffering? Thriving, right? Evolution, growth, healing. Okay. So we look at Albert Einstein for adaptability. It says, Albert Einstein, we're choosing him, but not for his intellect. Einstein, like geniuses in general, is a paragon of success. Such people are intelligent and creative far beyond the norm. If we knew their secret, each of us would have greater success no matter what we pursued. Highly successful people don't merely have 7 habits, they use their brain in a way that is key to success. If you shut yourself out from Einstein's way of using his brain, you limit your possibilities for success. It isn't just a matter of good genes. Einstein used his brain in a way that any person can learn. The key is adaptability. Superbrain takes advantage of your innate ability to adapt. The ability is necessary for survival of all living things. Humans have adapted to all environments on the planet. Confront us with the harshest climates, the strangest diets, the worst diseases, or the most fearsome crises presented by natural forces, and we adapt. Homo sapiens do this so incredibly well that we take it for granted until someone appears before us who carries adaptability to a new level, someone like Einstein. Einstein adapted by facing the unknown and conquering it. His field was physics, but the unknown confronts everyone on a daily basis. Life is full of unexpected challenges. So, three strengths in adaptability: letting go, being flexible, hanging loose. Three obstacles: our habits, our conditioning, and our stuckness, our familiarity with stagnation is what I'll call it. You can measure a person's adaptability by how much they are able to let go, remain flexible, and hang loose in the face of difficulties. You can measure how poorly a person adapts by the dominance of old habits and conditioning that keep them stuck. Harmful memories of shocks and setbacks in their past tell them over and over how limited they are. Einstein was able to ignore old habits of thought that surrounded him. He hung loose and let new solutions come to him through dreaming and intuition. He learned everything he could about a problem, then surrendered to unknown possibilities. Einstein's great motivation was awe and wonder before the mysteries of nature. This was a spiritual state. When you face a new problem, you can solve it in old ways or a new way. The first is by far the easiest path to follow. Now, don't get me wrong, I like easy, but we also like a challenge. And we like challenges because they help us create new neural pathways. And no matter what challenge comes our way externally, if we're internally challenging ourselves, we're going to be prepared. We're going to be ready for the next challenge. So, these are ways in which we can be adaptable. Stop repeating what never worked in the first place. Stand back and ask for a new solution. Stop struggling at the level of the problem. The answer never lies there. Work on your own stuckness. Don't worry about the other person. When the old stresses are triggered, walk away. See righteous anger for what it really is: destructive anger dressed up to sound positive. Rebuild the bonds that have become frayed. Take on more of the burden than you think you deserve. Stop attaching so much weight to being right. In the grand scheme of things, being right is insignificant compared with being happy. That's fact. Taking these steps isn't simply sound psychology. It creates a space so that your brain can change. Repetition glues old habits into the brain. Nursing a negative emotion is the surest way to block positive emotions. Thoughts move like lightning. Emotions move much slower and sometimes almost imperceptibly. Here is a good place to point out that separating emotions and reason is totally artificial. The two are merged. Brain scans affirm that the limbic system, a part of the lower brain that plays a major role in emotions, light up when people think they're making rational decisions. This is inescapable because the circuitry of the brain is entirely interconnected. Studies have shown that when people feel good, they are willing to pay unreasonable prices for things. That's true. But they are also willing to pay more when they feel depressed. The point is that we make decisions against an emotional background, even if we rationalize that we don't. Part of adaptability is to be aware of the emotional component instead of denying it. Otherwise, you run the risk that your brain will start using you. We pay a high premium for stubbornly sticking to our opinions, backed by stuck emotions, habits, memories, and beliefs. Maximize your brain's ability to adapt. You are becoming more adaptable when you can laugh at yourself. You see that there's more to the situation than you realize. Other people no longer look like antagonists simply because they disagree with you. Negotiating starts to work and you genuinely participate in it. Compromise becomes a positive word. You can hang loose in a state of relaxed alertness. You see things in a way you didn't before, and this delights you. So now we've learned to adapt, we've got to learn to integrate. And in the book, they look at integration via a newborn baby. Babies are paragons of health and well being. Every cell in their body is vibrantly alive. They see the world as a place of endless discovery. Each day, if not each minute, is like a new world. What makes for their state of robust well being isn't that they are born in a good mood. Rather, their brains are constantly on the move, reshaping themselves as the world expands. Today is a new world, whether you're a baby or not, if it expands on what you experienced yesterday. Babies have not shut themselves down or become stuck in old, outworn conditioning. Whatever their brains observed yesterday remains in place while new horizons keep opening up. Walking, talking, learning how to relate and feel. When we grow up, we become nostalgic about the innocence of childhood. We sense a loss. What have we lost that babies have in abundance? The key is integration. Integration means to bring together or incorporate parts into a whole. Among all living things, human beings absorb every possible input and integrate it. That is, we make a whole picture. Nothing is real. Either you sense it as a sensation like pain or pleasure, imagine it visually, feel it emotionally, or think about it. There's a psychiatrist called Daniel Siegel who has a technical term called SIFT. S, sensation, I, image, F, feeling, and T, thought. Sifting goes on constantly, and yet it is utterly mysterious. Anything the brain does is communicated to the rest of the body, quite literally. When you feel depressed, or have a bright idea, or think you're in danger, your cells join in. Technically, what's at work is a feedback loop that integrates mind, body, and the outside world in one process. Incoming data stimulates the nervous system. A response arises. The report of this response is sent out to each cell, and in return, the cells say what they think about it. A dialogue. That's what I mean about your body being in dialogue. How to integrate. Remain open to as much input as possible. Don't shut down the feedback loop with judgment, rigid beliefs, and prejudices. Don't censor incoming data through denial. Examine other points of view as if they were your own. Take possession of everything in your life. Be self sufficient. Work on psychological blocks like shame and guilt. They falsely color your reality. Free yourself emotionally. Being emotionally resilient is the best defense against growing rigid. Harbor no secrets. They create dark places in the psyche. Be willing to redefine yourself every day. Don't regret the past or fear the future. Both bring misery through self doubt. One way or another, you will inevitably create a reality around your own viewpoint. No one is perfect at integrating the world without bias, but babies teach us how to make our reality more complete. We are born with the ability to create wholeness, yet we choose denial, repression, forgetting, inattention, selective memory, personal bias, and old habits instead. These influences are hard to overcome. Inertia is on their side, for one thing. But you can't feel balanced, safe, happy, in tune until you regain the wholeness that comes naturally to every newborn. This is the key to well being as well as physical health. 3 strengths to integration: communicating, staying balanced, seeing the bigger picture. 3 obstacles: isolation, conflict, repression. Countless adults experience a breakdown in communication. They feel isolated from all kinds of things, their feelings, other people, the jobs they go to every morning. They become entangled in conflicts, and as a result, they learn to repress what they really feel and their real desires. These feelings are not just psychological factors, they affect the brain and, in turn, every cell in the body. Bottom line, if you want to return to the natural state of health and well being like a newborn baby, integrate your experiences into the wholeness instead of living with separation and conflict. You are becoming more integrated when you create a safe space where you can be yourself. You invite others into the same safe space so that they can be themselves. You desire to know yourself. You look at areas of denial, accept hard truths, and face reality. You make peace with your dark side, using it as neither a secret ally nor a feared enemy. You honestly assess and heal guilt and shame. A sense of higher purpose dawns. You feel inspired. You offer yourself in service to others. Higher reality seems real and attainable. We use our brains first and foremost to be conscious, and some people take their consciousness much further than others. Our heroes, our paragons for inner growth, are the spiritual guides of humanity wherever they arise. One particular hero, the Buddha, and the type he represents, saints, sages, and visionaries, display to perfection a unique trait of human beings, which is to live for meaning, which leads to a craving for the highest meaning. Meaning comes from within. It goes beyond the brute facts of life. If only we could tap into our yearning for meaning. The key is expansion of consciousness. No matter what kind of experience you are having it presupposes that you are aware. To be human is to be conscious. The only issue is how conscious. If you strip away all the overtones of religion and mysticism, the state of higher consciousness is a part of everyone's inheritance. It makes you aware of things out there and in here simultaneously. Being aware creates a relationship between the two. Is that relationship good or bad? The heavens and hells conceived in the human mind are all products of thought. We think our way into them and we think our way out of them. You are only as safe as your thoughts. But where do thoughts come from? The dangerous, unsafe kind, as well as the reassuring, trusting kind, they originate in the invisible realm of consciousness. For the mind, awareness is the womb of creation. Bars, gonna say that again. For the mind, awareness is the womb of creation. To achieve a life filled with meaning, you must figure out how to be more conscious. Only then do you become the author of your own destiny. So, how do you expand your consciousness? Put a higher value on being awake, aware, and alert. Resist conformity. Don't think and act like everyone else. Value yourself. That one is so loud. Value, celebrate yourself listening to this podcast. Literally treat yourself. Say, yes, I did that. I showed up for myself. It says, don't wait for the approval of others to validate you. Instead of desiring external validation, strive to help others. Expose your mind to a higher vision through art, yes, yes, poetry and music. Read widely in world scriptures and holy texts. Don't just choose one, explore many. Question your core beliefs. Work on reducing the demands of the ego. Expand beyond the limits of I, me, mine. Aim for the highest meaning that your life can have. Keep faith that inner growth is an unending process. There is no end goal to growth, it's a journey. Walk the spiritual path, however you define it, with sincerity and hope. Consciousness is a curious thing. We all have it, but we never have enough. Yet the supply is infinite. The greatest spiritual guides exemplify three strengths and avoid three obstacles. The strengths are evolving, expanding, being inspired. The obstacles are contraction, fixed boundaries, conformity. None of these terms are overtly religious. They are about facing existence with more awareness. We contract behind the walls of ego. We refuse to look beyond the mental fixed boundaries. We pursue the pleasures and possessions that consumer society holds out for us. Higher consciousness isn't necessarily a spiritual state, it is an expanded state. Spirituality arrives in due course depending on how contracted you were when you started. A life filled with stress and sorrow naturally causes awareness to contract. It is a survival response. You need to realize that contraction may create a primitive kind of safety, but at the cost of tightness, fear, constant vigilance, and insecurity. Only by expanding your consciousness can you be a lamp at the door, seeing the world without fear and yourself without insecurity. Bottom line, if you want to achieve inner growth, Expand your awareness and look beyond the walls set up in the mind. You are becoming more conscious when you can speak your own truth. You no longer see good and evil as fixed opposites. Grey areas emerge and you accept them. You forgive more easily because you understand where other people are coming from. You feel safer in the world. You see that the world is as you are. You feel less isolated and alone, which shows that you are basing your happiness on yourself and not others. Fear is no longer as persuasive as it used to be. You see reality is a rich field of possibilities and you are eager to explore it. You escape the clutches of us versus them, thinking in religion, politics, and social status. You do not feel threatened by or fear the unknown. The future is born in the unknown and nowhere else. You can see wisdom in uncertainty. This attitude allows life to flow naturally without the need to make things black or white. You see being here as its own reward. Now, obviously, we could go into more depth, greater depth of all of the words that I've just thrown out there into the universe. This is just an opportunity for us to reinforce our mind, brain, body connection. And these are realistic models for change so that we have solutions to our problems and we can expand our brains, have neurogenesis, create new neural pathways, create better cells that vibrate together in dialogue with the body and all those other things. But really, I just wanted to say, well done. Yeah, we did that. And it's always here. It's always going to be available for when we have lapses and forget our innate magicalness. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great week. Next week, we're going to start looking at anxiety and we're going to body that too. Lots of love and that. Oh, and never let anyone take you for idiot, especially your own mind narrative, okay? Share it if you want to. Don't if you don't want to. I'll be right here. I hope you will be too. I'm done now for real. Well, at least for now. I'm never going to be done. I'm going to chat forever. Anyway.